Chosen one, still your body, and receive this. That warmth spreading through your chest right now. The one that feels like something ancient recognizing you. That is not your imagination. God just looked at you, and he laughed. Not the laugh of someone who finds you amusing. Not the laugh of someone watching you stumble. The laugh of a father so proud of what he sees that the sound of it shook the walls of heaven. The angels stopped, the atmosphere shifted, and in that moment every voice that has ever told you that you were too broken, too late, too far gone, was silenced by the sound of God celebrating the sight of you. The enemy has been working overtime this week for one reason, and one reason only. He heard that laugh, and he knows what it means. It all ends here. The shame, the self-doubt, the quiet belief that you are somehow less than what God promised. But hear this clearly, it is not ending because you finally got it right. It is ending because God has been watching you get it right all along, and he has been laughing with pride the entire time. Think back to that moment this week when you almost gave up. Maybe you were sitting alone somewhere quiet, holding the weight of something you could not explain to anyone, and you made a decision. Not a loud decision, not a celebrated one. Maybe you chose to get up again. Maybe you chose to stay kind when cruelty would have been easier. Maybe you simply chose not to quit when quitting was the only thing that made sense. You had no idea what that moment looked like from heaven, but God saw it, and that was the moment he laughed. Type amen in the comments right now. Let heaven see that you showed up for this. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. God did. This is a divine appointment that was written into your timeline before you ever drew your first breath. You are standing at the edge of a revelation that is going to permanently change the way you see yourself. Stay until the very last second, because in the next few minutes, I am going to show you exactly what God sees when he looks at you. I am going to hand you the decree that cancels every verdict the enemy has tried to place over your identity. And at the end, I am going to give you a declaration so powerful that when you speak it, the pride of heaven will rise up inside you, and you will never shrink back into silence again. Do not click away. Your future self is standing on the other side of this message, fully awake, fully free, fully certain of who they are. Do not make them wait. Before you go further, press the like button right now. Not as a habit, as a yes, as your spirit saying, I receive what is about to be spoken over me. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The atmosphere has been strange. Not loud, not dramatic, just heavy in a way that is hard to name. Maybe you caught yourself staring into nothing this week. Not sad exactly, but tired in a way that sleep does not fix. Or maybe you woke up at 3 in the morning with a question sitting on your chest. One you cannot fully form into words, something close to. Am I enough? Am I actually who God says I am? Because the evidence in front of me does not seem to match the promise. You feel like you are waiting for proof, and in that waiting, the enemy has slipped a very specific lie into your thoughts. He has been replaying your failures like a court case. That conversation where you said the wrong thing, that season where you made choices you are not proud of, that version of yourself you have been trying to bury, and the accuser has been standing over that evidence saying, this is who you really are. God may love you, but I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will quiet you by his love. He will exalt over you with loud singing. Listen to that. He exalts over you. He sings over you. That is not the language of a God who is disappointed. That is the language of a father who cannot contain his pride. The word used in that scripture is the same word used for a warrior celebrating a victory. God is not tolerating you. He is celebrating you. Type 777. If you believe God is proud of you right now, not someday, not after you fix everything, Right now, the enemy has been lying to you about your position in the eyes of God. He has been telling you that your weaknesses are disqualifications. But the truth is this: God has seen every battle you have fought in private, every moment you chose character when no one was watching, every tear you cried in a room alone, trusting Him even when trust felt impossible. And every single time He looked at you and laughed with so much pride, it echoed through eternity. The heaviness you feel right now is not the weight of shame. It is the weight of glory that has not yet landed on you fully. It is the pressure of a calling that is too large for the container you have been trying to hold yourself in. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are not forgotten. My name is Joseph Bill. For years I have been studying the patterns of spiritual awakening, the warfare that follows a chosen one, the moment they begin to step into who they were created to be, and the breakthroughs that are always closer than they appear. More than 10,000 people have walked through their darkest seasons using what I teach here, and come out on the other side knowing exactly who they are and why the enemy fought so hard to stop them. If this message is hitting something deep inside you, subscribe right now and turn on every notification. Your spirit led you here. Do not let the algorithm decide if you come back. The next message I release might be the exact word you need for the war you have not even seen coming yet. You are not someone God merely tolerates. You are someone God boasts about. You are the one He points to when heaven needs to see what resilience looks like, what faithfulness looks like, what a chosen one who kept going in the dark looks like. That was not weakness. That was the making of a weapon. And God laughed full and loud and proud and said, "That is my chosen one." As this word settles in your spirit, know that helping with this mission is not a small thing. It is a sign that you understand what is at stake. You can support this work through the link in the description or the pinned comment, whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our exclusive community. By doing so, you become part of what God is using to reach the one who is still hiding, still believing the accuser's case against them, still waiting to hear that heaven is proud of them. Every seed you plant turns into light that reaches that person. If you water others, you will be watered yourself, Jesus says. This is not poetry. It is a living. Come into this moment with faith. What God has already declared over you can be unlocked through your giving. And I need you to sit with that for a moment. Because what just landed in your spirit is not hype. It is not a feeling designed to fade by morning. It is a word that was already written about you before you took your first breath. And it is arriving right now because you are standing at the edge of something heaven has been preparing for a very long time. Imagine a tapestry meticulously woven in the quiet chambers of eternity, with your name and your divine assignment intricately stitched into its very fabric. That word is the echo of that eternal blueprint. A whisper from the Creator confirming your destiny is not a matter of chance but of divine orchestration. It is a celestial handshake, a cosmic confirmation that you are precisely where you are meant to be, poised for a profound shift orchestrated by the infinite. Now stay with me, because here is what most people do with a moment like this. They feel it, they receive it, and then they walk back into the same version of themselves they were before they pressed play. It is like catching a glimpse of a magnificent vista from a mountaintop, only to descend and forget the clarity that the altitude provided. They return to the familiar valley of their former selves, the echo of divine truth fading into the mundane rhythms of daily life, not out of rebellion, not out of doubt, but because something beneath the surface has never been named, never been confronted, never been pulled out into the light where it can finally be dealt with. This is the subterranean landscape of the soul, where unaddressed issues lie dormant, like sleeping giants that can awaken to sabotage our progress. And until that thing is named, every word of affirmation, every prophetic declaration, every moment of spiritual clarity will eventually dissolve back into the noise of a life that has not yet aligned with what heaven declared over it. These divine pronouncements, meant to be foundational truths, become fleeting whispers lost in the cacophony of an unaligned existence. Here is the hidden barrier. Most people who are genuinely chosen, truly set apart by the hand of God, are living in a state of spiritual mistaken identity. It is as if they are wearing a cloak woven from the threads of other people's perceptions and their own past wounds, obscuring the radiant garment of their God-given identity. Not because they do not believe in God, not because they lack faith, but because somewhere along the way they accepted a version of themselves that was narrated by pain. Instead of authored by purpose, the narrative of their lives was hijacked. The pen of authorship wrested from divine hands and placed into the trembling grip of circumstance and hurt. Someone spoke a word over you that was never theirs to speak. A parent, a teacher, a partner, a community, a failure, a diagnosis. These pronouncements, often delivered with conviction, become insidious seeds planted in the fertile soil of the soul, sprouting into limiting beliefs. And that word attached itself to your identity like a second skin. This is not just a metaphor. It is a visceral reality. This external narrative becomes so intimately interwoven with your being that it feels like an intrinsic part of you, inseparable and undeniable. And you have been wearing it so long that you forgot it was ever put on you from the outside. The original radiant self is buried beneath layers of adopted identities, like a priceless artifact hidden beneath centuries of debris. Think about Gideon. When the angel of the Lord appeared to him, Gideon was hiding in a winepress, threshing wheat in secret, so the Midianites would not find him. He was operating in survival mode. This winepress was not just a physical hiding place. It was a spiritual bunker, a sanctuary of fear where his potential lay crushed and hidden. And the angel looked at him and said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." This declaration was not a suggestion. It was a revelation, a profound unveiling of Gideon's true nature, obscured by his present circumstances. And Gideon's first response was essentially, "You must have the wrong person." His mind, conditioned by fear and scarcity, could not reconcile the angel's words with his reality. He listed every reason why the declaration could not possibly be true. His tribe was the weakest. He was the least in his family. His circumstances contradicted every word that had just been spoken over him. He presented a meticulously catalogued defense against the truth, a testament to how deeply ingrained his perceived inadequacy had become. But here is what the angel did not do. The angel did not lower the declaration to match Gideon's current reality. The divine word remained steadfast, unwavering in its truth, a beacon of what was possible beyond Gideon's limited perception. The angel stood on what heaven had already decided. Heaven's decree was immutable, a truth that predated Gideon's fear and his circumstances. And that is exactly what God is doing with you right now. He is not adjusting his declaration to fit your self-perception. He is not scaling back his promises to accommodate your current limitations. He is calling you to rise until your self-perception catches up with his. This is an invitation to a spiritual ascension, a journey where your internal landscape is recalibrated to mirror the divine blueprint. It is a call to inhabit the truth of who he says you are, rather than clinging to the echoes of who you have been told you are. But here is where it goes deeper. The reason that feels so difficult is not because you lack courage. It is because there are agreements you have made, quietly, privately, often unconsciously, with a narrative that was handed to you. These are silent pacts, subconscious treaties signed in the hidden chambers of the heart, binding you to limiting beliefs. An agreement that says you are too late, an agreement that says people like you do not get those kinds of breakthroughs, an agreement that says the things you have done, the years you have lost, the times you have fallen, disqualify you from the fullness of what God intended. These are the invisible chains, the self-imposed restrictions that create a prison of potential. And as long as those agreements remain sealed in your spirit, they function like a ceiling. They create an invisible dome above you, limiting the scope of your spiritual growth and your experiential reality. You can grow, but only so far. You can believe, but only so much. You can step forward, but never quite all the way through. Breaking agreement with a lie is not the same as ignoring it. It requires a deliberate and precise dismantling of the falsehood. You have to locate it. You have to call it by its actual name, not my insecurity, but the specific sentence you have been silently believing that has never been true. And what is coming in just a moment will show you exactly how that works from the inside out. Because this is where most people stop short of their actual breakthrough. This precise identification is the scalpel that allows for the extraction of the cancerous lie. The moment you begin to name the lie, something else happens that almost no one talks about. Resistance intensifies, and I do not mean that metaphorically. This is not a gentle nudge. It is a seismic upheaval within the spirit. I mean that the closer you get to the real root of what has been holding you, the louder the counter-argument becomes. It is as if the very foundations of your perceived reality begin to shake, and the forces that have held you captive mobilize in defense. Suddenly you are exhausted. Suddenly something urgent demands your attention. Suddenly your mind floods with reasons why this does not apply to you, or why now is not the right time, or why you have tried this kind of thing before, and it did not work. This is the adrenaline of the adversary, the desperate attempt to pull you back from the precipice of liberation. That resistance is not random. It is targeted. It is a calculated defense mechanism employed by the forces that benefit from your confinement, because what you are approaching has been protecting something that was never supposed to stay. It is guarding the prison cell, desperately trying to prevent your escape. Think of it this way. A wall does not get thicker in the middle of a field. It gets thicker around something worth guarding. The fortifications are not arbitrary. They are strategically placed to protect a valuable asset, and the enemy does not fortify what has no value. The intensity of the resistance you have felt in your life is not evidence that you are losing. It is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. It is evidence of how much is at stake in your winning. The ferocity of the opposition is a direct correlation to the magnitude of your potential victory and the immense value of the destiny you are about to claim. Type 444. If you have felt that resistance this week, the angels are watching this moment with you. You did not stay through this message by accident. The pull you feel right now to respond is not emotion. It is instruction. Helping with this mission is a sign from God. Through the link in the description or the pinned comment, whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our exclusive community, you become part of what God is using to reach the ones still reading their resistance as failure. Someone else needs to hear that the intensity of what they are facing is proof of what is at stake in their rising. Specific seed, specific answer. The one who moves when God signals is the one whose breakthrough accelerates. Jesus says, "Give, and heaven will open over you." This is not history. It is a living promise active right now. Come into this moment with faith. What God has already placed inside you can be unlocked through your obedience. And this brings us to something that shifts everything. Most people interpret spiritual warfare as an attack on their destiny. They see every trial, every setback, as a direct assault aimed at derailing their future. But there is another layer beneath that. Sometimes what looks like an attack from the outside is actually a war being fought around an identity you have not yet stepped into. The enemy is not fighting the person you are right now. He is fighting the person you are about to become. He is launching preemptive strikes against the future. You, the fully realized, divinely appointed you. He knows that once you fully inhabit that new identity, your capacity to impact the world will be immeasurable. And once you understand that, the nature of the resistance changes entirely. You stop running from it. You start reading it as a signal. It transforms from a terrifying threat into a diagnostic tool, a roadmap indicating precisely where your greatest breakthroughs lie. Type 1111. Type 11 is your declaration that a new chapter begins here. And almost no one sees it coming. This is the subtle trap, the deceptive detour that can keep even the most earnest seeker on the fringes of their promise. There is a counterfeit rest that chosen people fall into. It looks like peace. It feels like patience. It sounds like trust. It is a seductive stillness, a deceptive calm that can lull the spirit into a state of spiritual inertia. But it is actually a spiritual stall. It is the place where you have stopped striving in the flesh, but you have also stopped advancing in the spirit. The engine of your spiritual momentum has been disengaged, not because of a lack of faith, but because of a quiet paralysis. You are not anxious, but you are not moving. You are not desperate, but you are not activated. You have mistaken stillness for alignment and passivity for peace, and you have renamed that stall as waiting on God. This is a subtle perversion of divine timing, a redefinition of spiritual inactivity. But there is a difference between divine waiting and divine delay caused by inner avoidance. One is an act of faith, a surrendered posture in alignment with God's perfect timing. The other is an act of fear dressed up in the language of surrender, a sophisticated form of self-deception that masquerades as piety. Elijah understood this after the fire fell on Mount Carmel. After the greatest public victory of his prophetic life, he ran. He fled from the palpable manifestation of God's power into the desolate shadow of fear and exhaustion. He went under a juniper tree and told God he was done. He chose a place of perceived safety, a retreat from the overwhelming weight of his calling and the threats against his life. And God did not rebuke him. God did not preach at him. God let him sleep. God fed him. God met him in his brokenness, providing for his physical and emotional needs, a testament to his enduring grace. And then God asked him a question that he is asking you right now. What are you doing here? Not as condemnation, as an invitation to locate yourself. This is not a judgment, but a gentle yet firm call for self-examination, a call to confront the spiritual reality behind the physical location. Because Elijah was not in the wrong place geographically, he was in the wrong place spiritually. He had let the roar of Jezebel override the fire of God he had just witnessed with his own eyes. The terrifying pronouncements of his enemy had eclipsed the undeniable evidence of divine power. And God needed him to name that before he could be sent back out. The truth had to be spoken, the hidden reason brought to the surface before restoration and recommissioning could occur. What are you doing here? In the waiting, in the withdrawal, in the place that feels safe, but has started to feel smaller than what your spirit knows you were made for. What are you doing here? And this leads to the real turning point, the one most people never reach because they stop just before it. You have been praying for God to change your circumstances, and there is nothing wrong with that prayer. It is a natural and valid expression of seeking divine intervention. But what heaven has been waiting for is your agreement to let him change your identity first. Because your circumstances are almost always a reflection of what you believe about yourself at the deepest level. They are the external manifestations of your internal landscape, not your surface beliefs, not the ones you confess out loud. These deeply embedded convictions are the true architects of your reality. Jacob wrestled with God at the river Jabbok, and what most people miss is that Jacob had been running his entire life. He ran from Esau. He ran from Laban. He was always moving, always maneuvering, always working the angle. A life characterized by flight and manipulation. And God finally stopped him at the crossing and said, "We are not going any further until you face something, until you wrestle with it and refuse to let go, until it blesses you." This was not a casual encounter. It was an all-night spiritual battle, a profound confrontation designed to break the old and birth the new. And the blessing that came was not wealth. It was not a promise. It was a new name, Israel, because what God knew was that Jacob could not walk into his destiny carrying Jacob's identity. The old name, steeped in his history of deception and flight, was incompatible with the future God had planned. The name had to change first. The self-perception had to be reformed in the fire of that confrontation, before the inheritance could be received. God is stopping you at a crossing right now, not to break you, to rename you. This is not an act of destruction, but an act of profound creation, a divine rebranding that aligns you with your true purpose. Type "I receive it" in the comments. Not as a ritual, as the moment you stop arguing with what heaven already decided about you. And here is where it gets confrontational. And I need you to stay open. The thing that has been blocking you is not the enemy you have been rebuking. It is not the people who hurt you. It is not the years you feel you lost. Those are real. Those are painful. But they are not the root. The root is this. Somewhere in your spirit, you have decided that the version of you that God is calling forth is too far from the version of you that currently exists. The gap feels too wide. The leap feels too dangerous. You have allowed the perceived distance between your current reality and your divine potential to become an insurmountable chasm. And so, rather than stepping into the fear of becoming who God says you are, you have stayed in the familiar discomfort of who you believe yourself to be. Because familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar greatness. The known ache of your current limitations offers a perverse sense of security compared to the terrifying unknown of your divine potential. And that is the thing no one tells you about being chosen. The greatest war you will ever fight is not against a person, not against a circumstance, not against a demonic force. It is against the smallness you have made your home. It is against the low ceiling you have agreed to live beneath. Because at some point, the ceiling felt like protection. It was a conscious or subconscious decision to contract your life, to shrink your dreams, to fit within boundaries that once felt safe, but now serve as an oppressive cage. And God is breaking it now, not gently, thoroughly, because what He placed in you was never designed to survive in that small space. The divine spark within you requires expansive territory to burn brightly and fulfill its purpose. And here is the part that may surprise you most. God's laughter over you, that pride, that delight, that uncontainable joy that heaven felt when it looked at you. It was not conditional on your performance. It was not a reward for your obedience. It was not something you earned by finally getting things right. It was the response of a father who looked at what he made and could not contain his pleasure at what he saw. It was the pure, unadulterated joy of a creator marveling at his masterpiece. The way an artist steps back from a finished piece and something rises in the chest that words do not fully hold. That is what God felt when He formed you. Before your first failure, before your best success, before you knew His name or carried His assignment, He looked at you and something in heaven could not stay quiet. This primal foundational delight in your being is the bedrock of your worth. That means your worthiness is not a variable. It is not subject to change based on your actions or your achievements. It is a fixed point in the mind of God, and everything you have been doing to earn it, to prove it, to finally feel like enough, that labor is over. Not because the work is done, but because the foundation was never in question. The struggle to attain worth is a misguided effort, an unnecessary burden, because you already possess it in the eyes of the divine. Place your hand on your heart right now and declare this with me. I release every label that was handed to me by someone who could not see what heaven sees. I break every agreement I have made with a lie that says I am too late, too broken, too far, or too small for what God has declared over my life. I name the resistance for what it is, not evidence of my failure, but proof of what is at stake in my rising. I receive the new name. I receive the identity that was written before my first breath. I step away from the familiar smallness, and I walk toward the terrifying, glorious, appointed fullness of who I was made to be. I am not waiting to become worthy. I am walking as one who already is, and I move forward today, not because everything is perfect, but because God looked at me, all of me, and laughed with pride. And that is enough. That has always been enough. You have stayed through this entire message, and that is not accident. God held you here for this moment specifically. Through the link in the description or the pinned comment, whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our exclusive community. Take this final step of faith. This is not supporting a channel. This is the first act of someone who just received a new name. Every seed you release here turns into oil for your destiny, fire for your calling, and safety for your family line. Jesus says, "Let go and watch what I bring back." Now is your time, my child. Step into it. If this word moves something in you today, do not let it fade. Send this to someone who needs to hear that heaven still sees them. You bring the anointing into your own life as you share. Tell me in the comments what broke open for you today. Type it out. Declarations made in public carry a different weight.